My family uninvited me from Thanksgiving the way people do when they want to pretend it isn't cruelty, when they want it to sound like logistics instead of rejection. And it started with my mother's voice on the phone. Too careful, too rehearsed. As if she'd practiced the sentence until it didn't sound like what it was, and she said, "This year is complicated," and I stood in my apartment staring at a grocery list I'd already started. Turkey, spices, cranberry sauce. The small hopeful things you buy when you still believe you belong somewhere, and I asked quietly, "Complicated how?" And there was a pause. Long enough for dread to form. Then she sighed. "The whole family is coming," she said, "but I think it's best if you don't," and the words landed soft and sharp at the same time, like a blade wrapped in cotton, and my throat tightened. "Don't come," I repeated, and she rushed to explain. "It's not like that, it's just your sister has been through a lot, and this holiday is about keeping things peaceful." Peaceful, the word my family always used when they meant obedient, when they meant silence from the person they were willing to hurt, and I swallowed hard. "So peace means I'm not welcome." And my mother's voice turned pleading, "Please don't ruin this. Just this once," and something inside me went very still, because it wasn't just this once, it was always me being asked to shrink so someone else could fill the room. Before I could respond, my phone buzzed with a text from my sister, blunt and cold the way she could be when she knew my parents would back her, and it read, "Don't come. The guest list is final," and I stared at it. The audacity of calling family a guest list, the cruelty of turning blood into an event with a bouncer, and my mother whispered through the phone, "See, it's better this way." Better for who? I wanted to ask. Better for her comfort, better for my sister's control, better for everyone who didn't want to confront the fact that excluding me was easier than dealing with her anger. But I didn't argue, not because it didn't hurt, but because I suddenly understood the trap. If I begged, I'd become dramatic. If I got angry, I'd become unstable. If I showed up anyway, I'd become the villain, and my sister would play the fragile center of attention, and my mother would say, "Why can't you just let her have one day?" And I would once again be the problem for existing. So I did something my family wasn't prepared for. I said, "Okay." My mother blinked into silence. "Okay?" She repeated, surprised that surrender came without a fight, and I kept my voice calm. "Okay," I said again. "Have a nice Thanksgiving," and I hung up before she could fill the air with excuses. The apartment felt too quiet afterward, not peaceful, empty, and I sat down slowly on the edge of my couch, staring at my sister's text like it was proof of something I'd spent years refusing to name, that in my family, I was always optional. My phone buzzed again almost immediately. Another text from my sister, "Don't make this weird. Just stay away." As if distance was my job. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened my email. At the top of my inbox was a message I had been ignoring for months, one I had almost forgotten existed, because I had told myself loyalty mattered more than opportunity, because I had convinced myself family would eventually see me. And the subject line read, "Out-of-state transfer offer, final availability." It was a job transfer I'd been offered years ago, a promotion, a relocation to a city I loved, a chance to start fresh, and every time it came up, I'd turned it down because my mother would say, "But we need you close," and my sister would roll her eyes and say, "Don't be selfish," and my father would simply expect my life to orbit theirs. I stared at the email for a long moment. Then I clicked reply. "Yes," I typed. "I'm ready." My finger hovered over send, and for a second I felt guilt rise, the old training, the reflex to sacrifice myself before anyone even asked. But then I saw my sister's text again, "The guest list is final," and something inside me hardened into clarity. I pressed send. The confirmation came within minutes. "Welcome aboard. We'll finalize the move Monday." Monday. A week from now, my life would shift. My family didn't know it yet. They thought they had cut me out of a dinner. They had actually cut me loose. The days leading up to Thanksgiving moved strangely, like walking through fog, and my mother didn't call again, maybe relieved, maybe uneasy, and my sister posted cheerful updates in the family group chat about centerpiece colors and dessert plans, as if excluding me was as normal as choosing napkins, and each message felt like a door closing. But I didn't knock, I packed. Quietly. I boxed books, folded clothes, signed paperwork, all without announcement, because for once my life wasn't a performance for their approval. On Thanksgiving morning, I woke up to silence, no family noise, no chaotic kitchen, no forced smiles, just the soft hum of my apartment and the steady beat of my own breathing, and for a moment sadness hit like a wave. Because being excluded hurts even when you know you deserve better, but I didn't drown in it. I cooked a small meal for myself, not a feast, just warmth, and as I ate, my phone remained still. No invitation. No apology. Just distance. And then, late that evening, after the holiday pictures were surely taken, after my absence had been explained away, my phone buzzed. A call from my father. I stared at the screen, surprised, because my father didn't call unless something demanded attention. I answered cautiously, "Hello." His voice came out tight, unfamiliar. "Where are you?" he asked. I blinked. "Home," I said slowly. There was a pause. Then he said words that made my stomach drop. "We need to talk. Now." And beneath his tone, I heard something else. Not anger. Not authority. Panic. My father didn't waste time with small talk. He never did when the world stopped obeying his expectations, and his voice sounded strained, like someone gripping the edge of a sinking boat. "You need to come over," he said, and I could hear noise behind him. Dishes clinking, muffled voices, the aftermath of a gathering that was supposed to be perfect without me, and I asked quietly, "Why?" And he exhaled sharply, "Just come," and the command in his tone was familiar, the same tone that had shaped my childhood, but something else trembled underneath it now, urgency, fear, and for the first time I realized this wasn't about controlling me, it was about needing me, and I felt a strange calm settle over my chest as I replied. I wasn't on the guest list, and silence hit the line like a slap. Then my father's voice lowered, rougher. "That was your sister's idea," he muttered, as if shifting blame could undo what had been done, and I almost laughed at the convenience of that sentence. Because my sister's ideas always became family decisions the moment no one challenged her, and I asked, "And you agreed?" And he didn't answer, which was answer enough. I waited. Finally he said, "Something happened tonight." The words were careful, like stepping around broken glass. "What happened?" I asked. He hesitated, then his voice cracked with frustration. "Your sister, she made an announcement." My stomach tightened. "An announcement?" "Yes," he said. "She told everyone that she and your mother were handling the family future now." Family future. The phrase sounded like inheritance dressed up as responsibility. I sat down slowly. My father continued, the panic bleeding through more clearly now. "She told your uncles, your cousins, everyone, that you've been distant, unreliable, that you've been pulling away, and that it was time the family assets were managed by someone who actually cares." Assets. There it was. I swallowed hard. "What assets?" I asked, though I already felt the answer hovering. He exhaled. "Grandpa's property." My pulse jumped. The house. The land. The trust that had always been spoken about in vague family terms, like it belonged to everyone even though legally it did not. My father's voice sharpened. "She said you didn't deserve a say because you couldn't even show up for Thanksgiving." My throat went dry. "She uninvited me," I said softly. I know, he snapped, then lowered his voice again, but she used it. Used it. Like leverage. Like proof. I closed my eyes, breathing slowly. What did she do? I asked. My father hesitated again, then said, she wants to change the paperwork. The world seemed to tilt. Change it how? He swallowed audibly. She wants your name removed from the beneficiary line. The sentence was quiet, but it detonated in my chest. Removed. Like I was never meant to be there. My voice came out steady only because shock can be a kind of numbness. Can she do that? She's trying, my father admitted grimly. She brought a lawyer friend today. Papers were on the table. I pictured it instantly. Turkey still warm, family smiling, my empty seat justified with lies, while legal documents sat waiting like knives. And you called me because? I asked softly. Because suddenly I mattered again. My father's voice broke, because she's moving fast, and your mother is listening. Listening. Not stopping. Not defending. Just listening. I felt something cold settle deep in my stomach. So, I said quietly, you didn't want me at dinner, but you want me when something is being taken. My father snapped, don't do this right now. There it was again. Not now. Not inconvenient. Always later. Always after damage. I inhaled slowly. I'm not coming tonight, I said. His breath caught. What? I'm not coming, I repeated calmly. You made it clear I wasn't welcome. Please, his voice rose, panic sharpening. Your sister is out of control. She's turning everyone against you. I almost smiled at the irony. Everyone had already turned. They just didn't say it aloud until now. What exactly do you want? I asked. A pause. Then, reluctantly, we need you to sign something. Of course. A signature. A fix. A way to patch the hole my absence created. What is it? I asked. He spoke like the words hurt. A reaffirmation of your position in the trust. My throat tightened. So the only reason they wanted me back was because paper required me. Not love. Not regret. Paper. I leaned back, staring at my ceiling. You didn't call to apologize, I said softly. Silence. Then my father muttered, I didn't realize she'd go this far. You never realize until it costs you. I exhaled. Dad, I said quietly, I accepted the transfer. His breath stopped. The out-of-state transfer, I continued. I'm leaving Monday. The line went completely still. Then his voice came out strangled. What? I'm leaving, I repeated. I said yes. The panic on the other end shifted into something raw. You can't just. I can, I interrupted gently. You uninvited me from Thanksgiving. You showed me exactly where I stand. My father's voice cracked. We need you here. Need. Not want. Not love. Need. And that word, after everything, felt like the final truth. I'll speak to the trust attorney, I said calmly, through proper channels. Lily, he started. I won't come running to a table that told me not to exist, I finished softly. I hung up. My phone buzzed immediately. A text from my mother. Please. Come tomorrow. We can fix this. Fix. Always fix. Never feel. Never change. I stared at the message for a long time, then set my phone down. Because the truth was, my family didn't uninvite me to protect peace. They uninvited me because they thought I would always come back anyway. They were about to learn what happens when the person you exclude finally chooses herself. The next morning, my sister acted like nothing was wrong, because people like her don't believe consequences are real until they arrive with witnesses, and she sent a message in the family group chat that made my stomach tighten with cold recognition. Family meeting tomorrow. Important. Attendance expected, and beneath it my mother added a single word. Please, and it was almost laughable how quickly I had gone from not welcome to expected, like my presence was optional until paperwork needed a signature and I didn't respond. Because silence was the only language they understood when control slipped. Elaine wasn't here. This wasn't about a friend uncovering secrets. This was about me finally seeing the pattern clearly, and on Monday morning, the day my transfer paperwork finalized, I walked into the trust attorney's office alone, calm, prepared. And the attorney greeted me with professional warmth, sliding a folder across the desk. "There has been an attempt," he said carefully, "to initiate changes without proper authority," and my pulse steadied, because I had expected it, and I asked, "By my sister," and he nodded. She presented documents framed as family consensus. "They are not valid," and the relief I felt was sharp, but not comforting, because even failed betrayal is betrayal. "She also attempted," the attorney continued, "to imply you were abandoning your obligations," and I almost smiled bitterly, because abandonment was their favorite accusation when I stopped sacrificing, and I said quietly, "I accepted an out-of-state transfer," and the attorney's eyebrows lifted. "Then timing matters," he replied. "Your presence here ensures your position is secure," and he slid another paper forward, "If you wish, we can lock the trust under strict non-interference provisions," meaning any future attempt by family members triggers automatic legal review, and the trap clicked shut cleanly, not out of revenge, but out of protection, and I signed. By Tuesday, my sister's plan was dead on paper. By Wednesday, she found out. She showed up at my apartment unannounced, pounding on my door like entitlement could force wood to open, and when I finally answered, she stood there with her eyes bright and furious. "What did you do?" she demanded. No greeting, no shame, just accusation. And I tilted my head calmly, protected myself, and she scoffed. "Protected yourself from what?" "Family," and I let the word hang. "You uninvited me," I said softly. She rolled her eyes sharply. "It was Thanksgiving. It wasn't about you." "It was never about me," I replied, and something in my calm seemed to unnerve her, because she was used to reactions, to tears, to guilt, and she snapped, "You think you can just walk away and still keep what's ours?" Ours. The truth slipped out so easily. I stared at her. "It was never ours," I said quietly. "It was always something you wanted." Her face twisted. "You're selfish." I almost laughed. Selfish was the word families use when you stop being useful. Then her voice dropped, sharp and desperate. "Dad is panicking." I nodded slowly. He called. She swallowed hard, anger flickering into fear. "You don't understand. If you leave, if you don't sign what Mom wants, everything falls apart. Everything. Not love. Not connection. Everything they benefit from." I leaned closer slightly, voice calm. "You made the guest list final," I reminded her. "Now the consequences are final too." Her eyes widened. "So you're doing this to punish us?" "No," I said softly. "I'm doing this because you showed me who I am in this family." And that was when her control cracked. Her voice rose, frantic. "You can't do this to Mom." I tilted my head. "Mom did it to me." Silence. She stared at me like she couldn't compute that I was no longer bending. Then she hissed, "You think you're better than us." I smiled faintly. "I think I'm free." She left in a storm of rage. And by Friday, the begging began. It started with my mother. She called crying, voice trembling, "Please don't leave like this." "Leave like what? Like they left me out?" She whispered, "We didn't mean it." "You always mean it. You just don't mean to be caught." Then my father called again, voice rough, stripped of authority. "Your sister made a mistake," he said, and I waited, because the mistake wasn't paperwork, it was exclusion, and finally he said the sentence that revealed everything. "The family is asking questions." Questions. Because my absence had become visible. Because people noticed when the scapegoat stopped showing up. Because relatives wondered why I wasn't at Thanksgiving. Because my sister's narrative was collapsing. And now they needed me back not just for signatures, but for appearances, for reputation, for the illusion of unity. You have to come back, my father said, quieter now. Just talk to everyone. Talk. Smile. Restore the picture. I exhaled slowly. I'm not coming back to a table that erased me, I said softly. My mother sobbed. But we're family. Family. The word that was always used as a chain. I replied calmly, family doesn't have a guest list. The line went silent. And then, 1 week after Thanksgiving, exactly as the title promised, they begged. Not because they missed me. Because they needed the version of me that stayed. But that version was gone. On Monday morning, I boarded my flight. A new city. A new job. A life where holidays wouldn't be invitations to be managed. And as the plane lifted, my phone buzzed one last time with a message from my sister. Please, come back. We didn't think you'd actually leave. I stared at it for a long moment, then turned my phone off. Because that was the truth. They never thought I would actually leave. And that was why they lost me.